courtroom rules of evidence, exhibit, and other testimony must adhere to strict rule before admission. However, a grand jury has broad power to see and hear almost anything they would like. And here's the correction to the previous page when they said there's more to it. However, unlike the vast majority of trial, grand jury proceedings are kept in strict confidence. So in other words, it is private hearing. Donc les auditions d'un grand jury sont privées. Il y a deux raisons pour ça. It encourages witnesses to speak freely and without fear of retaliation. Donc ça encourage les témoins à parler librement et sans avoir peur de se faire taper sur les doigts plus tard. And it protects the potential defendant's reputation in case the jury decide not to indict. So ça protège donc les accusés si dans le cas où le grand jury décide de ne pas procéder. Grand jury's decision and prosecutor discretion. Grand jury do not need a unanimous decision for all members to indict, but it does need a majority of 50% agreement for an indictment depending on the jurisdiction. Even though a grand jury may not choose to indict, a prosecutor may still bring the defendant to trial if he or she thinks that he or she has strong enough case. However, the grand jury proceedings are often a valuable test run for prosecutor in making the decision to bring the case. And the grand jury, if the grand jury choose to indict, the trial will most likely begin faster, of course, because the inquiry, the preliminary hearing has already been done. Without a grand jury indictment, the prosecutor has to demonstrate to the trial judge that she or he has enough evidence to continue with the case. However, with a grand jury indictment, the prosecutor can skip that step and proceed directly to trial. Alright, so now I'm going to speak specifically about the grand jury that we've done in Canada in 2015. Let me remind you before we get started with this part that it was only regular people who's done that, nobody involved with Law Society, except maybe for witnesses. So here we go, the initial process. A constitution was written for the grand jury proceeding in order that the participants are fully aware of their responsibility and duty to serve on the grand jury. The grand jury constitution was open for a period of time for the proposal of amendment and or modification. It took me a year, me and some other people, but I wrote it down, to write the constitution of the grand jury. The grand jury's constitution also outlined the general obligation of all members and the process that would be followed. Yes, you can do 20 different grand jury and have 20 different constitutions about it. Donc oui, vous pouvez faire 20 grands jurys et avoir 20 différentes constitutions. In our case, for the 2015 grand jury, there were 7 drafts during the development of the constitution, so that's why it took a year. Il y a eu donc 7 copies qui ont été faites de la constitution du grand jury avant qu'on adopte la constitution finale. A draft were reviewed by a committee of 3, which we call the court committee. 3 people were selected, donc il y a eu 3 personnes sur le comité de la cour pour déterminer si on était pour présenter cette constitution-là ou pas avant le grand jury. The constitution was submitted to the grand jury after the draw for consensus of approval. I'll comment on this one. So yes, we did write the constitution, then we submitted to the grand jury people for consensus. And here's a little trick. If we didn't have all 23 to agree on all 64 pages of the grand jury, it would have never happened. So it was really tricky. It could have failed right there and I would not be here today. The period for the potential registration was 1 year for the jury candidate. The draw was held on June 15, 2015. There were 4 preliminary hearings publicly held through Hangout. And Angel can vouch about that. She was there. Donc il y a eu 4 audiences qui ont été faites avant le grand jury par Hangout pour décider si on était pour le faire ou pas. C'était quand même intéressant. The grand jury was initiated by, now he's taking a break, but by Denis Paiement. So, donc l'instigateur du grand jury, c'était Denis Paiement. Sans lui, sans sa cause, il n'y en aurait pas eu non plus de grand jury. So it began. So we didn't arrive at the grand jury with our hand empty. In the case of Angèle, she probably went to court a million times before that. In the case of Denis, was a little different. In the area where we live, there is no judge. So when there's no judge, you address to a notary public. So that's exactly what we've done. Prior to the grand jury, and I'd say roughly 8 to 10 months before the grand jury, we addressed and presented before a notary public for arbitration. The name of the notary public was Ghislain Poudrier. Then the defendant was CSST, was summoned to and appear at this hearing. They sent 2 employees to represent the corporation there before a notary public. The case was a civil case at this point, because remember, grand jury does an inquisition or an inquiry to find out if there's enough evidence for criminal charge. The notary public does not do that. Notary public reviewed the case with the accused being present and presented a judgment in favor of the plaintiff, in favor of Denis. 23 items were reviewed to determine if the accused party was operating according to their own legislation, which is LATMP. It stands for Loi sur les accidents du travail et maladies professionnelles, or in English.
Similar to WCB.
WCB. So I don't know what WCB means.
Workmen's Compensation Board.
Here we go. Workman Compensation Board. The accused were then found guilty on all 23 counts, failing to respect the LATMP. Donc, ils ont été trouvés coupables de ne pas respecter 23 points de loi. And I may add here that the LATMP is a totally incomprehensible law, which is about this thick, and it's composed of 750 something articles. So, and I can also add, as a personal comment here, that they don't respect any of these articles on 400,000 cases. So it's not the first time. They have a lot of experience about screwing people up. Alright, so the grand jury, we told you a little earlier, it didn't take all jurors to agree. It's not a consensus, it needs only 50%. So here's the proof of the people. These are juror signature that you see here on the screen. This is the first page. That they pretty much agree. We had the majority of the grand jury, but the beauty of it is that because not everybody could be there when we read the judgment, their electronic signature was enough. All they needed to do was to phone us and say, pull my name out. Otherwise, it is considered signed. In other words, when we had the signature period for reading the final judgment, we had a consensus. And I'll add on this, there was one person, one human, I don't know if he is, but anyway, comment, that later withdrew his signature. That was between 60 and 90 days later. Well, too bad, because in common law, if you don't pull back your signature within 30 days, it is forever. So, even if you change your mind. Donc oui, il y a eu quelqu'un qui a changé d'idée dans les 60 à 90 jours qui suivent le grand jury. Malheureusement pour lui, en droit commun, si tu ne retires pas ta signature dans les 30 jours, elle est maintenant là pour toujours. So now you can see the second page, and this is why I'm saying that their electronic signature is enough. Nobody has said that we were full or they just simply couldn't be there. By then, it was 6 months in the process, 6 weeks in the process, and involved lots of dollars for people coming from all over Quebec to Cowansville, Quebec, which is a little town in Quebec, to sign. So they simply put their name under the electronic form. Of course, we don't abuse signature from others, so I would never have signed in their name in place. But like I'm saying, their name's on the sheet, it's enough. Otherwise, it would have been barred. So from roughly mid-2014 to June 2015, there was, like I said earlier, the development of the grand jury constitution and opening for the registration of jurors. So yes, it took 1 year to gather 23 good souls to come and sit. But of course, I needed to explain to each and every one of them what a grand jury was, the entire whole 9 yards, because nobody had ever heard of that in that point in 100 years. So June 15, 2015, which was exactly the 800th anniversary of grand jury, we did the random draw of the juror. It was was on purpose that we've done it on that date. We wanted to celebrate the 800th birthday appropriately. From September 29 and 19 and 20 of 2015, we started hearing the case. These 2 days were really hard. We started very early in the morning, ending at 10 at night for both days. So it was a long weekend. We did the same 2 weeks later. I think we've missed on the date here, but I don't want to be confused, so I'll just read the page. Actually, it was October 3rd and 4th. We kept on proceeding. Those were 2 really hard days again. More than 12 hours each, close to 16 hours. Then you can vow about that. Even Angèle, les journées des audiences du grand jury, c'était quasiment 16 heures, les 4 jours. So, in total, we recorded 39 hours of taping about the grand jury, so that was quite long. And on October 17th, we read that judgment that you see there to the people and for signature as well. But once again, like I said, half of them would have been enough, and you can see on the document that we do have half of them. Everything that we did up until that point in 2015 was duly notarized, so if anybody doubt that my legal or my authentic act before a notary public were illegal, well, I dare you to challenge me, because my notary is awaiting to come and challenge your notary act. So if you have got a house, chances are you will not sleep in tonight, because they'll be mine. Everything was notarized, yeah. And at the end, the notary public would not even charge us anymore. Everything was free because he knew we had a winning case. So, back to timeline a little bit. October 20th, the signature of the judgment. October 30th was the deadline, so they were giving 10 days to comply with the grand jury's decision. Donc, ils ont eu 10 jours pour se conformer aux décisions du grand jury, chose qu'ils n'ont pas fait d'ailleurs. So, they have never done that. Until today, and back since 2015, so if you count quickly, it's almost 4 years. We have a public mandate, the prosecutor, the grand jury. I'll get back to that in a moment. Between October 20th and December 5th, we did several notifications of the judgment to the accused party. So each prosecutor would need to go to the accused of their choice, or well, it's not really a choice, and notify them with the judgment. Donc, entre le 20 octobre et le 5 décembre, chacun des accusateurs a dû aller vers l'accusé pour lui porter son jugement. Puis je peux vous dire qu'on s'est bien amusé. So we had a lot of fun doing that. Yeah, right. So February 3rd, 2016 was the date of the official dissolution of the tribunal itself, which means the juror duty was over on that date. There was, though, maintenance of the committee, the prosecutor, the mandate, and the judgment. These all 4 items are still valid and active to this day. Donc le comité existe toujours, les représentants, donc les j'ai un blanc. Ouais, mais ça c'est en anglais.
Pas les avocats, mais les...
Anyway, so we, the prosecutor, are still valid. The mandate that we've received is still valid, and the judgment is still valid. So what's the mandate that we, prosecutor, have received? It's quite simple. It's 5 lines, so allow me. That's dated back to the date of the judgment on November 7, 2017. Here's our mandate. The prosecutor, under the authority of the tribunal and the people, which is most important, it was people, right, who gave us this mandate. Above, name in the judgment, so the list that you saw a moment ago, to conduct a criminal investigation, serious and severe, for the fact mentioned above, by all means useful and necessary to prevent crime, such as the equivalent power of a judge of instruction in law of France. Remember, the grand jury does not have power to make an indictment in criminal charge per se, and especially not to decide if they're guilty or innocent. So we needed a second procedure, which we've done, as an equivalent of a judge of peace. We've used judge of instruction in law of France because this happened in Quebec, and there's a mixed law system in Quebec. There's not really common law. When I say mix, it's more of an abuse of word because it's only French law. And so we had to have those power equivalent to France because that's where it comes from. So now, the grand jury by the number, we'll say these both in French and English. So 6 weeks, 6 semaines, 23 jurors, 23 grands jurys, 1 notary public, un notaire, 1 lead prosecutor, un chef, comment est-ce qu'on les a nommés? J'ai un blanc. Bon, 6 assistant prosecutors, donc 6 assistants au principal. 1 court secretary, un secrétaire de la cour. 1 court president, un président de la cour. 2 technicians, 2 techniciens. 1 public judgment, un jugement public. 1 constitution, donc une constitution. 2 victims deceased, 2 victimes qui sont décédées immédiatement avant ou pendant ou après le grand jury. 1 closed major insurance corporation, CSST, donc une compagnie majeure d'assurance de personnes fermées. 2 resignations, 2 démissions, donc the Minister of Labor, which is not Minister of anything but invention of his mind, called Sam Ahmad from the National State of Quebec, and we also had the resignation of the President of CSST soon after, Michel Després. In the following 2 years, and that's a count that was kept by Angèle, because I don't care about politics, but she kept it, 19, that's not a small number, so that takes it to 20 total resignation from member of the Liberal Party of the National Assembly of Quebec in the following 2 years, donc 20 démissions au total des libéraux de l'État national du Québec et de l'Assemblée nationale illégale. Over 70, because the list is in constant evolution, 70 dangerous delinquents to be controlled, notified through the judgment, donc 70 délinquants dangereux à contrôler, 78 corporations identified as criminal organization of high level, donc 78 corporations identifiées comme criminelles de très haut niveau, 110 criminal charges, all prosecuted by Angèle and I. In summary conviction, guilty on all count. 110 chefs d'accusation criminels qui ont été procédés en procédure sommaire par Angèle et moi-même, et ils ont été trouvés coupables de tous les chefs d'accusation. $250,000 in equivalent of letter of change for CSST, CNESST for Denis Paiement. Donc 250 000 $ en lettres de change ou équivalent pour Denis Paiement. Et puis un montant illimité de cigarettes et de café. To this day, I still don't count. So an unlimited amount of cigarettes and coffee, and we still don't count them. And I've got coffee today, which counts as this. All right, I'll leave you a minute. Maureen's going to go over the next 2 slides. You can read on this screen here some of the charges that were laid. There's 110 in total. Don't get us wrong, you may find this text a little bit weird because it's Google translated. We didn't break our ass getting back to the criminal code to check all the charge. Everything was done in French, remember. So take a moment. Some are very nasty. If you look, the very first one at the top, common law, ignorance of the law. But yeah, you may not understand all of them. Like I said, it's a Google translation. I'll take a moment and I'll take my breath and a sip of coffee. So enjoy. You can see here criminal negligence, actus reus, mens rea. These are the 2 factors which are most important when you proceed in a criminal indictment. You need to be able to show the act, which is the easy part, but the intention, that's the hard part. So that's why it took so long for us to organize a grand jury. The intention, we needed to surrender that. Donc, actus reus, mens rea, this is Latin. Quand tu fais une charge au criminel, il faut que tu sois en mesure de prouver l'acte en tant que tel, ce qui est la partie facile, mais aussi l'intention Puis nous aussi, ce qui a été difficile, l'intention des criminels de continuer leur crime ou de le faire une première fois.
How many was there in total again? 120?
110 charge, and we may miss some in there because we lack some space, but believe me, that's 3/4 of the criminal code. And if you don't believe me, you can check the criminal codes, because I've had enough of these criminal, and going through the criminal code in English, I didn't feel like it, honestly. We dumped it into Google and here are the results.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Alright, now we're going to talk about the case detail a little bit. We won't bug you for too long about that, but let's get in with more number. 7 cases were tried through the grand jury process in total, so we didn't just limit to Denis Paiement. We've had some other people coming in to show their own cause. We felt like, 100 years without a grand jury might as well do in grand, or big or tall, or involved as much people as we could. So 4 causes were directly related to CSST. It was not only Denis Paiement, he was the main cause, but 3 other people came in with their own cause. Donc il y a eu 4 causes reliées à la CSST directement. Non seulement Denis Paiement, mais c'est ça, en plus 3 autres sont venus au grand jury avec leur propre cause CSST. And trust me, do not believe me, but trust me, I could have prosecuted 400,000 different cause against CSST during the grand jury without any problem. One was related to the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producer. I will refrain from telling you exactly what I think of these people, but you can imagine all the curse word in the world, and that would not even be enough. And we got Régent here, which is very much related to this cause. He lived it firsthand. If you'd ask him what he thinks about the Federation, he'd be worse than me. Donc la Fédération, je vais éviter de vous dire ce que je pense de eux autres pour rester poli, puis à cause de l'enregistrement, mais s'il fallait que je vous le dise, on sera encore ici dans 2 semaines, puis je serai encore en train de sacrer. Puis c'est ça, on a Régent qui est ici, qui en ferait probablement plus que moi, puis lui aussi il est pas content contre eux autres. We had one cause related that was presented by Paul Leblond, represented to the Federation of Caisse Populaire Desjardins. If you don't know about it, it's a saving and loan business in Quebec, which is so big that anyway. And last but not least, which leads us directly to what we're doing today, there was one constitutional case. So after the grand jury was said and done, the CSST case was not enough for me to involve everybody in this country, so I jumped on the constitutional cause, and this is exactly why we're here. So here are the prosecutor of the grand jury, Marc Legault, which was represented by Chantal Benoit, Yves Saint-Martin, which was represented by me. The reason is because he died 2 weeks before the grand jury, and on his deathbed, he recognized me. I called him into the hospital. He said to me, "I am happy to speak to you," and I've asked him verbally his permission to lead his cause and to take it as mine for the future, as best as I can, of course, because he was supposed to be there. But yeah, he died. He knew he would die. It was a nasty moment. We went to his funeral less than 10 days before the grand jury. We were supposed to have his wife to prosecute, but she was devastated, as you can know. So I represented the cause as best as I could. So Yves Saint-Martin, may you rest in peace. And he was on my shoulder during the entire process. He seriously said to me, "If you don't take it, I'm going to come back down from heaven and I'm going to kick your ass." So I didn't want that. So I took the cause as best as I could. And it was sad what happened to this man. Anyway, let's keep on going. We also had at the grand jury Michel Thibodeau, may he rest in peace. Fortunately for us, this is recorded. Michel was on oxygen and in his last mile. When he came to the grand jury, he gave it all. He died less than a year after the grand jury. I don't have the exact date, but yeah, this was a good man who also got hurt at work and never been compensated or healed about it. They told him that his sickness, which was pulmonary sickness, came from his dog. So this is how bad this stupid corporation is.
Hey, Maureen.
I got them.
We've got the document.
Got it.
Awesome.
We got her.
Alright, so the next cause, which was against Fédération des Caisses Populaires Desjardins, was led by Paul Leblond, who did the magistral work in showing that all mortgage in Canada, and in fact all of the banking system is corrupted to the core. They have no legal foundation, but